I consider my home, Grand Ledge, outside of Lansing in central Michigan. I'm the oldest boy of five boys. Took up wrestling as sort of an afterthought. I was in the ninth grade, and I was speaking to some of my classmates in one of my classes, and they were talking about Grand Ledge High School wrestling team and spoke so highly of the sport that I decided to give it a try. I absolutely hated it because it hurt, it was difficult, and I wasn't even wrestling hard. I was just going through the drills. Finally, at the end of the season, my coach, Okla Johnson, took all the freshmen to a freshman tournament, and there, to my shock, I took first place. From that time on, I was hooked on the sport. It shaped me in many ways. I worked hard to get on the varsity team. I made varsity at the end of my junior year, and then my entire senior year, we were conference champions. I was conference champion both years and qualified for the state tournament. I wanted to wrestle in college. Grand Valley's coach, Jim Scott, was actively recruiting me.
We considered him to be a blue chip recruit for us. We had pulled him away from a Division I verbal commitment. He came and wrestled for us for 4 years, had 76 wins, probably 25 losses thereabouts, in a schedule that included mostly Division I and Division II competition. He ended up becoming an All-American his senior year, which was part of his dream.
I thought I was finished with wrestling, and I wanted to return to a sport that I enjoyed very much, that is skydiving. So in May of '75, I found where I could skydive in the Grand Rapids, Michigan area, and it was my first jump after 2 years that my parachutes did not open. And then went to deploy my reserve chute. It did not fully inflate because some of the lines became entangled. I looked down, I saw this entangled mess. I realized I was falling faster than I should have been falling, and I pushed those lines out to the side in hopes that it would totally inflate the canopy above me. Instead, it totally deflated it. At that point, I was falling to my death, so I fell probably a good 300 feet before hitting the ground. It turns out I made it to the hospital, but it turns out I didn't leave the hospital until 7 months later. They removed one kidney. My other kidney did not work. They removed my spleen. My bladder didn't work. My spine was fractured. My pelvis was broken severely.
Gary had already lingered in the hospital for over 5 months when a routine procedure almost cost him his life, but at the same time pinpointed the problem. I went to see him in the hospital, and he weighed 97 pounds, down from about 190. And he stuck out this very thin hand to shake mine, and he said, "John, they found the problem. I'm going to be okay now." I have to say, as bad as he looked, his optimism made a believer out of me.
From there, I went back to my parents' home in Grand Ledge, and they nursed me back to health. My folks and my girlfriend, who, by the way, was instrumental in saving me through this whole ordeal. Her name is Vanessa. She was my girlfriend, and now she's my wife and has been for the last 40 years.
He did make it through that. I think the doctors commented to me that there was no way a person would make it through that unless they had years of training and preparation that he had put into wrestling, and that actually probably saved his life initially.
His character, his courage, his will to live were extraordinarily impressive.
Well, my plan was to go into federal law enforcement. Once I had my accident, that became impossible in my mind.
We were able to raise some funds to get tuition for him so he could return to school and change his major from criminal justice to pre-law.
And I did finish law school, and I did become a lawyer, and I enjoyed a a long career as a trial lawyer. I drew upon my wrestling toughness to get me through the tough days, to get me through the physical therapy, to help me learn to walk again, to help me learn to lift a glass of water again. I now walk with a cane. I've had one leg amputated. I still have some physical problems. I believe my physical condition, as a result of my accident, has given me an advantage in life, because I've had to draw upon things deep down inside to overcome my handicap. And those same things have caused me, I believe, to excel as a trial lawyer. There's no way that I could have got that kind of courage and that kind of energy if I hadn't been a wrestler and if I hadn't had to survive these handicaps. I'm fortunate to have a wonderful family. My wife Vanessa and I have been married 40 years. We have two beautiful children, Spencer and Myra, and we've had all of the joys and tribulations that most parents have had. Want to acknowledge that every wrestler who walks on that mat and faces another wrestler with the objective of beating that person has courage that a lot of people have never needed to muster up. Courage is a quality that all wrestlers share, and receiving this medal is just an acknowledgement to me that I, among all the other wrestlers out there, have courage.